Oh, we got Thomas S. is in the house.
Good old Thomas S.
Did she say she was going to give me the thumbs up? Are we ready to roll here?
Your thumbs up. You're good to go.
I'm good to go. I didn't see that. Oh, man. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Chris Steininger. I'm a Lego Master Builder, and welcome to the Michael's Spaceship Build here with Lego here. So I'm joined by Master Builder Pete as well, and we're going to lead you through a really fun activity today where we're going to be building space-themed models. So I'm actually pretty excited about this because it's something that I like a lot. I'm big into space-themed stuff, so rockets and spaceships and just outer space in general. So anytime I get to build something like a rocket or a spaceship, I really get excited about it. So that's the plan for today. So just a little bit about myself here. I have a daughter, also a son as well, who live here with me. And we like building with Lego, but I actually have a background in woodworking, furniture making, carpentry. I started working at Lego about 12 years ago now, and I work in a model shop with Pete where we design, build, and create all the large-scale sculptures like you see all over the world at places like Legoland and different Lego events. So we really can say that we get paid to play with Lego. So my main role is large-scale building events. So I travel all over the world building large-scale sculptures at different types of events globally. Pete, you want to talk a little bit about what you do here at Lego?
Sure, awesome. Thanks for introducing me, Chris. My name is Pete Donner. I work at Lego like Chris. I'm also a master model builder. That's more of our stage name. My actual functional role is I head up the design team in Enfield, Connecticut. And that means basically that I get to kind of have some oversight over the visual look and feel of the models coming out of the shop. Chris's role is a lot more event-based, where my role is a lot more art and design-based. But like Chris, I've done a bunch of awesome events, got to go out and hit the ground running, meet the kids that are building with the Lego on a daily basis, which is really awesome and a lot of fun. I've been pretty blessed, like Chris said, paid to play. I've done everything from the design of really small models, like the rocket we're gonna lead you guys through today, all the way up to one of my favorite, which was Thanos from Infinity War. I got to make him life-size. So we get to cover a lot of ground in Enfield. Like Chris, I have 2 girls and a little boy in my life, Liam's boy, Ella, which is also Chris's daughter's name, and Cora, which is what occupies a lot of my time, but also inspires me to keep doing the great work that I do. So like Chris said, we're going to ask you guys to build a rocket. I believe you guys who signed up got an email at sign up, and in that email you got a little outline of the elements that are used to build this rocket. I want to encourage you guys to pick any parts not necessarily in the same colors that are on this chart, because we don't expect that everybody will have them. There is a set that we built this from. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but I believe it was referenced in the email, but I think it was 10696. So you can actually pick that up at Michael's. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the rocket that we're going to be building. I'm going to share my screen. So for those of you guys who didn't see the email, we're going to take you guys through the build of this rocket, which is going to be phase 1 of today's activities. Then we're going to encourage you to take some of the things you learned while building this rocket along with us and build your own rocket. And me and Chris will do the same. He'll do his physically with bricks the same way you guys are building at home, and I'll do it in a piece of software called Bricklink Studios, which is a really fun, cool way to build digitally with a huge assortment of Lego. You'll have no color limitations or anything because it's all digital and it's free. And you can get that at bricklink.com, which I believe a link will probably be shared with you guys in the chat. But without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. So first thing I want you guys to do is to pull your bucket of bricks up to you and search through and find a big plate. This plate here specifically is 8 studs by 8 studs in width. So it's a perfect square. And the reason we're starting with this plate, it can be any color again, is to have a nice sound foundation. That way we can put all the bricks on here and it won't fall over while you're building. So I'm going to give you guys a second to pull that out and put it together. Chris is also doing the same thing. So when he shoots me a thumbs up, I'll go to the next step.
Yeah, keep on rolling there. I'm good to go. I have that played out.
All right. So the next step you can see is outlined in red, and this is a 2x2 brick. And we call it a 2x2 because the studs from left to right are 2 studs deep by 2 studs wide, and it's a brick because unlike the plate it's sitting on, it's 3 times as tall. So that's a little bit of Lego anatomy for you, that a brick is comprised or made up of 3 plates stacked on top of each other. So this one goes right in the center, although this doesn't really matter. This is, again, the white plate is just there for support, but if you're trying to do it as the image shows, it's 3 studs in from the front and the side. So if you count them out, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, here you go, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, then you'll be where you need to be. Going to go to the next step now, because we want to try to get through this fast so you guys have some more creative fun building with us. Now we're going to introduce 4, they're called 1x2 roof bricks or slope bricks. And that's because when they were originally designed by Lego, they were used to do the roofs on houses. Excuse me, all this talking is drying my throat. So the reason we're using 4 of them instead of 2 is the set I was designing it from only had 1x2s, but I still wanted to get that same shape. That's a good tip. You can use more than one piece to create the size or shape that you're looking for. So with that behind us, I'm going to go to the next step. And we're going to do the same thing, but this time on the opposite sides with another 1x2, or it can be a 2x2 if you have that. That's a good alternative. And again, color doesn't matter, but in this instance, we're using 221, which is the Lego color code for the pink that's on here.
And now, keep in mind, guys, these instructions will be available afterward. So if we're going too fast for you, you'll have them for later.
That's right. And again, we're trying to go fast because we'd rather you guys build outside of the box and just take the instructions and push them aside and use your imagination. So again, if we go too fast, Chris makes an awesome point. We're going to share these with you and you guys will have access to them after this session ends. So I'm going to go to step 5 now. And now we're using 2 2x4 plates. You can tell that it's a plate again because the height is much shorter, but it's 2 studs in this direction by 4 studs in that direction. So those are just going to go, and you'll see that it covers up all the studs. So if you, when you put them on, if you have any studs showing, that means you have it misaligned. So you're going to want to pop it off and make sure that all the studs get covered. And then I'm going to go to the next step. We're similar to the last step, or the step before the white 2x4 plates. We're going to put, these are called inverted roof bricks. So these are roof bricks that go up towards the sky, where the slope bricks go down towards the ground. And you will have 2 studs on top as opposed to 1. This again could be substituted with a 2x2, or you can use the 1x2s as shown here. Again, color doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm going to keep going. And Chris, you tell me if I get to go too fast, because I'm excited to do some free building. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I think we may need to just speed up just a little bit, just get here. But if you want to see here, Pete, so everyone can kind of see where we're at here. I know they got the building instructions right there, but so this is the actual model that I'm making, and you can see colors don't really matter. It's what I have hanging around. So yeah, let's keep on rolling.
Awesome. So back at it, I'm using 124, like this really cool magenta-y, purpley pink. This is a 1x4 brick, and I'm going to use 2 of them, 1 on either side. And again, all of the studs on the edges of the white plates should now be colored or covered. And the reason I said colored is because you can tell that this software does a really nice job outlining the bricks that we're adding on. So that's a good tip. If you see the red outline, that's the brick you're putting down. Now we're going to use a 1x2 brick and a 1x2 plate, and those are going to be on the 1x4 bricks beneath them, and they're going to be offset to the center and on the opposite side of the 2 inverted slope bricks we put on the last level. Man, I use a lot of words, huh, Chris?
Yeah, you're very talkative today, Pete, but they need this. It's very descriptive. I
Yes.
like it.
So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to speed it up a little bit just to make sure that we get to some free building. So now this view gets a little bit confusing. So in the building instructions, you'll see this from time to time, and you'll see that there's a 1x2 that's on the edge of this inverted roof bricks. That actually gets mirrored on the other side, but the angle of this building instruction makes that difficult. And I actually left it like that because I wanted to call out that typically in building instructions, if you see something like this, it's going to be mirrored, which means the same from left to right or front to back. In this instance, it would be left to right. So there's 3 of the same plates. They're 1x2s. You're going to stack one on the one in the front and one on each of the farthest studs out on the inverted slope bricks. Keep going the wrong way. All right, so now we're going to step number 10, which means we're just about halfway there. On this
Halfway, woohoo!
Haha, you're going to add 2 1x4 bricks, one on either side, and these will actually serve to start to interlock in the slope bricks beneath it. And now you're going to start to see strength and interlocking, which Chris is going to explain to you a little bit more before we free build. But this is what's going to make the model strong and hold up to really fun, really energetic play. Wrong way again. All right, so now we're going to add 1 1x4 plate to the back. This is a pretty easy step. You'll see that it leaves you with 3 studs on the blue in the front. If you have that, you're good to go. Again, next step. Now we're going to add 4. These are called bow bricks. They're actually called 1x1 with plate bow bricks, or 1x2 with plate, sorry. There is not a version that's a 2x, so you're going to have to use a 1x for these ones. But you could substitute these with a bunch of other parts. You could just put some plates on here and come across. These are just adding a little bit of fun shape to the model overall. So moving on, we're going to add 2 1x1 rounds. These could be 1x1 plates. These could be just about anything that fills that space. In the set I was building, these were a nice detail element, but I also didn't have any 1x1 plates. So it's a good tip that you can use shapes that might seem a little weird or funky. Once you put them in there, it might really make the model actually have a little bit more character, which is nice.
Hey, Pete.
Hey.
It's Sam. We just have some people in the chat who are just joining us. Would you mind just taking a pause and just letting everybody know who's new, what's going on?
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. So my name is Pete Donner. I'm a Lego Master Model Builder, and I'm joined by Chris Steininger, who's in the chat too. And we're taking on a little bit of a space journey. We're going to be building a rocket that's lead, which means that I'm walking you guys through a set of building instructions for a relatively simple rocket that I've designed. And then after that, we're going to encourage you guys to pull your part of bricks out and build a model along with us. And then we're going to share what we do in that time, and you guys can share with us on your cameras. And we'll try to call out the ones that we just really see as being awesome, which in my interpretation means all of them. But we wanted to give a little bit of insight into how we approach doing something like designing a rocket. So we're at 14 steps. There's 24 in all. So if you guys want to bear with me through the rest of the building instructions, these will be shared at the end of the session. And you guys can download them and then go through them in your own time and build the rocket. Heavily encouraging you to not rely on trying to find exact colors. You could build the whole thing in one color or every color under the rainbow. It's still going to be awesome and fun. So with that said, I'm going to keep going and get to step 15. Although I didn't explain, there's a 1x4 and a 1x2. This is called the parts box or the vignette box that shows you the parts you need for the step. Should have called that out in the beginning. All Lego sets of a certain size will have this. And that way it helps keep confusion so you don't use the wrong plate or the wrong brick in the wrong spot. So now I'm going to go to 15. And now we're adding 2 of the same one. And this introduces our first advanced building technique, which I'll get into a little bit more when we actually utilize it. But this is a 1x1 brick with stud on side. So you can see there's a stud on top as well as on the side. And this will allow us to build off of the edge of the model as well as on top of the model, which is a really good thing.
We call it, it's a special name that we use for that, right, Pete? It's kind of gross, so we want to share it with them.
I call it sideways building, but Chris is a little juvenile in his old age.
Come on, hey, what are you saying here? We also call it snot building, right? Studs not on top. So yes, it's yes, I am the 12-year-old boy.
Yes, no, but that's something that we actually do refer to as that in the shop. And that is one of many, it's called an acronym, I believe, where you have an interesting name and you take the first letter from it and you try to make it into funny words like snot, which the kids in my house love it when I tell them these really fun techniques. So going again, you're going to see we're going to double stack more of those 1x1 with the stud on side. as well as a regular 1x2 brick in the back offset. So they're in alignment with each other. Now, if I keep going to 17, we're going to put 2 more 1x4s on either side. And again, this is tying in that row. It's kind of rotating around and it's making it strong so it can withstand the 0 force gravities of space travel. Moving
Zero
on.
force. I like it.
I don't know if that's a real statement, right? We should probably.
Oh, probably not. I think you made it up.
I tend to do that from time to time. So 2x4s we're going to use now. This is probably one of the most heavily used bricks in events that we do, which Chris can tell us more about that. But this brick is really standard. It's an evergreen brick. And every year there's a version of this that comes out in probably almost every color. So this is one that everybody should definitely have. We're putting 2 of them side by side, and now the whole rocket beneath it is all tied in. It's nice and strong. And again, it can withstand the G forces of traveling to space. That sounds more accurate.
Yes,
So,
I like that.
That we were going to introduce some new building techniques. This is the sideways building technique. So up until this point, we've been putting bricks on top of our model. And at this point, we're going to start plugging them onto the side. And this is where the cockpits, this is where the pilot, when I was designing this rocket ship, because when I design anything, I put a story behind it. So I have this really funny story about the rocket and how it needed to be made and what the purpose of it was for and where would the person sit if they were flying around in it. This is where they would sit, and this is where they would store their cargo or they would sleep and stuff. That's how I saw it. So this is kind of the cockpit area of this rocket ship. Moving on, the top of it, I wanted to make it round, so it was more of a classic rocket shape. So this is a little bit complicated, but not really. It's not any sort of crazy building technique, but it really is important because I tried to focus on making a certain shape, which was a round shape. So it was kind of like part of a circle. So these are actually the same element, and I just put a different color one on this side. So when you spun the rocket around, you got some more colorful interest and visual appeal, which is basically a big person's way of saying it looked cool. Now we're going to add these bow pieces, which are some of my favorite pieces to design with, because a lot of people ask us, how do you make a circle out of Lego? And these are great pieces and a great way to do so. And these guys are going to plug in on either side, starting to get that round shape. And then this is called a 1x2 cheese wedge. And that's because it tastes delicious. That's a joke. It's called that because it actually looks like a small wedge of cheese. Chris normally laughs when I tell that joke, but he left me hanging today.
I did leave you hanging, actually.
Moving on to step 22, this is another bow brick, but this is actually a functional bow brick that has studs on top where this one doesn't. So this has got the nice curved edge, which you can also build on top of it, which is a nice feature. Gonna just fly through the last 2 steps because there's only 2 more pieces. So now we're gonna add a cone piece, which this could be your escape pod. It could be where you keep your gas. It could be a whole bunch of different things. And it's not done until it has a nose cone. So here's the nose cone. And with that, your rocket is complete. So if you guys have made it this far, congratulations. I hope you guys had fun building this rocket, but I actually hope you guys have more fun building your own rockets with the pieces that you have. But before we set you off to do that, we have a few things that I'm going to say one more time for the people who are just arriving into the chat. We just went through the process of building this rocket really quickly, but we're going to make these instructions available to everybody. You guys can have them to download. You can build this, pull the parts from your own collection. Don't care about the colors, just try to go through and build the rocket. And then you can alter it and change it, which is what I'm actually going to do in the free build section. I'm going to just go and start trying to have some fun with it and maybe add some more shape. But we encourage you guys to do that. Chris and I, one thing we didn't talk about as master model builders, we're here and we're very different than the people who develop the sets you buy in store. We actually are here to inspire and showcase what Lego is capable of beyond the sets. So we want you guys to take your sets, when you break them down and put them in your bucket, to go back to that bucket, take those parts out, make really fun, cool things of whatever you want. You know, make it a person, make it a place, make it a thing. Really just have fun and explore. It's a super approachable art medium. When I was a kid, it was my favorite. And I encourage you guys to go and just get those hands in there and dig in and, you know, have at it, have fun. Well, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he's going to give you some information about what we're doing next, maybe some other cool facts or whatever. But Chris,
Hey.
pass it over to you.
Hey, Chris, sorry, can I jump in real quick?
Sure.
Thanks. Sorry, guys. Hi, everybody. My name is Sam. I work at Lego with Chris and Pete, and I'm just going to help answer some of your questions. So if you have any questions for Chris and Pete about what they do, their favorite sets, their favorite models, any tips and tricks, then definitely send those to me in the chat, and then they'll be happy to answer those for you. And just for anyone joining, as Pete said, we're building some space-themed models right now. We did lead you through the guided rocket, but we're going to give you instructions on that. So if you missed any steps, we'll give you an own a little later. But for right now,
Sounds like we may have lost Sam, so I'll try to fill in for her. So right now, if you guys have any questions for Chris or I, it can be about anything Lego related, about how we got our jobs, what have you, feel free to put those into the chat, and Sam will call them out and let us know that they're there, and we'll try to do our best to answer them. In addition to that, I'm going to make the instructions available again one last time. And I should mention that the set that I designed and the instructions that you just went through with me, I created in the software, again, called Bricklink Studios, which I think a link may have shown up already in the chat. I haven't checked, but that's a free piece of software that allows us to build digitally, and then you can render it, you can pull a building instructions, and you can actually go into Bricklink and order the parts if you don't have them. So that's just a little background on the software and how it came to be used for this event. But these instructions and everything came right from there. So if anyone has any questions, I'll just answer that one right up front. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he's going to fill you guys in with some information that maybe I left out.
All right. So yeah. So I think I actually just was disconnected for a few minutes there, so I just got back in here. So we finished a model here. I don't know if everyone was able to finish theirs in time. I understand it was pretty quick. But as you can see, mine's all done here. I made some part substitutions and stuff like that. But in the end, I think it looks pretty close to Pete's vision. But yeah, it's got some funky colors on it. But it's what I had hanging around, so I went for it. Now, let's talk a little bit about some examples of rockets. Now, Pete and I both did some pre-work and created some cool little rockets before this event, and I'm going to just show you one that I did here real quick. So let me share my screen here, and I will show you this one here. We're going to go like this and then show you this guy right here. So this is another example of a really simple but cool little rocket that I built. It's got the jets on the bottom, the rocket blasters on the bottom, some kind of wings to help it navigate, and then probably the crew capsule up top there. So
hey, Pete, we didn't get to see what you were sharing, or Chris, sorry.
yeah.
I think all we saw was the screen of everybody on the chat on the Zoom call.
Uh-oh, sorry about that. Here, let me see. I must have hit something wrong. Can we see it now? If not, I will stop sharing and we'll pivot.
Yes, we can see it now.
we can see it.
Okay.
All right. You don't see it. All right.
Nope.
Yes,
Chris.
yes, we did.
Yeah, you could
Oh,
see
you
it.
did. Sorry. Well.
So everybody was wondering,
That's
Chris
right.
is actually our IT guy in the model shop.
I'm the IT guy. Not really. Not really. But if you saw quickly there was a rocket that I put on there, and here's the actual physical version of it. Once again, I wasn't too concerned about the actual colors that I was using. It was just what I had hanging around. So using Lego Studio, you can go ahead and build all sorts of cool models in there and then make physical versions of them. Now, for today's free build activity, we're going to actually have you guys build whatever you want. Build a spaceship, build a rocket. My son Chase earlier here, I know you can kind of see this guy right here. Most of you can probably recognize what that is. If you're any bit of a Star Wars fan, yes, that looks kind of like the Millennium Falcon. I thought he did a pretty good job doing that. So really, that's what we're going to do here for the remainder of the time. And we're going to talk about some of the other cool little projects that we've worked on. I actually worked on recently this last summer. We built a massive 20-foot tall rocket down in Washington, D.C. And I actually have some pictures of that I can share here along the way. But I think Pete might also have some examples of some models he would like to share as well.
Yeah, you all set, or you want me to go first, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
All right, so let me share my screen again. So I made fun of Chris, and now what ends up happening is I lose sight of my IT tools. Okay, here we are, share screen. So we worked on this really fun project with NASA, and Chris is going to share with you the event portion of it, which he and I and a team of people worked on the development of. And this is the life-size version of an astronaut from the Apollo mission. And this was something that was really awesome, probably one of my favorite projects in the entire time I've been at LEGO. We don't get to do enough historical models that have relevance through generations, meaning that a lot of people have been exposed to it. So if you guys haven't learned about this mission yet, you will, and this image will be something that you will see photos of at some point. But this was a really fun project. It's life-size. We don't typically do things like if you look into his visor or the mask portion of this model, that's the actual reflection of another astronaut on the moon with the lander behind him. And it looks amazing in real life, if I could say so myself, which is probably kind of funny to say. But anyhow.
No, I agree, Pete. I will say it for you. It was absolutely amazing. And I think when it was on site and we actually had astronauts coming up and looking at it, it was a little moving because they were so impressed by how cool it looked and how realistic it looked to the actual picture. This is models actually from a picture that was taken in outer space.
Yeah. So thank you, Chris. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna throw the screen back at you so you can share what you got. But yeah, this is an example of something that we do on a day in, day out basis. So.
Absolutely. So I'm going to show you also all part of that event here was the actual large-scale rocket that we built. So we built a massive 20-foot tall rocket, and it was absolutely incredible. I think I have it coming up here. Let's see. Does everyone see that?
I can see it.
Yes.
You can see it. That means I'm sure everyone can see it. So we actually were able to build this rocket 20 feet tall in just about, I think it was 3 days. But we had 4 master builders working on it to get it done in time, and the help of tons of kids and families that came down to Washington Mall over that weekend. And it was the hottest week in history in Washington, D.C. I swear it was not below 102 every single day. And we're out there in the sunlight just building away on it. So yes, we do have some stressful days every once in a while building with Lego, but it was a ton of fun. And I have one other picture here to show you. We actually did get to meet some astronauts too. So that was one of the highlights of my time there, is meeting 2 real life astronauts, and they actually helped us put some bricks on the model as well. So so that was definitely one of the most enjoyable events we've done recently, and it fits right in with today because it's a space themed day. So we're gonna stop sharing.
And I'm assuming that everybody's already started building, but just in case you haven't, feel free to dig into your bucket, start building sets. As we get closer to the end of the session, Chris and I are going to share what we're working on now. I don't know if he started yet, but I have. I'm altering the rocket that we built. But at this point, we really want to encourage you guys. If you have questions, throw them into chat. Sam will share them with us. If not Sam, somebody else. But in lieu of not getting any questions yet, Chris, I have a question for you that, Keith really wanted me to ask you.
Oh, no.
What is your favorite brick to build with when making a Lego model?
What's my favorite? So you know what? I have to say, I'm going to get it right here, is my favorite brick is the standard 2x4 brick. It's the most common brick. It's used all the time in sets. I like it because you can do tons of things just with 2x4 bricks. You can build large scale sculptures very quickly, and it may not have all the bells and whistles of some of the more modern bricks, we'll call them, the ones that you would see in some really advanced Star Wars sets, or maybe some creator sets. Where there are studs all over the place and it's got slopes and angles and all that. This is just the iconic 2x4 Lego brick. So I like using it. Pete, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, it's one of those. We've been doing this. So I don't know if Chris mentioned, but I've been doing this for 22 years. I started in 1997, so I think that's 22 person. But I think as a designer, you answer the same questions because we'll get asked that from time to time. And I think it changes. I think it evolves. I think you come up against a problem that's more or less difficult for you to challenge yourself with and to overcome. So I think it used to be the bricks with studs on side because it allowed us to make our models stronger and more detailed. But in the recent years, I would say it's probably more of the bow bricks or the modified slopes that allow us to get more intricate shapes, or even the new dots line has a lot of really cool tiles that let you do type. You can write letters. You can do really cool patterns that repeat. You can finally make a really nice tiny Lego heart, which is cool. I'm going to put that on my rocket. You guys can see it. But yeah, I think that's probably my favorite.
I agree. They are some cool elements for sure. So do we have, yeah.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Sam.
All right, technical difficulties today, huh? So yeah, we do have some questions in the chat. First question, most important question, do you know Jamie and Amy from Lego Masters?
We do. So Pete and I just recently actually had a nice chat with Jamie Berard. He came on our, we have a weekly team meeting, daily team meeting with everyone in the model shop where we get together and we talk about projects we're working on as well as, cool things we might be doing personally. And we actually invite, every once in a while, we invite people from different parts of the Lego company as well as different companies in general to come in and hopefully inspire us because we're a creative group of people and we like to see and talk to a bunch of people who are doing cool and creative things. And so Jamie was just recently a guest in our meeting. But yeah, he's a really great guy and he told us a lot of behind the scenes stuff about the show that really makes me want to be on because it sounds like he was having a lot of fun.
That's very true.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so just for anybody who might be joining, we're just free building right now. You can build a rocket, a spaceship, anything you'd like, and in a few minutes, we'll share them with Chris and Pete. But for right now, if you have any questions, I'm Sam, send them to me. And make sure that if you're sharing them on social, we use #Lego and #MakeItWithMichaels so that Chris and Pete can see all your creations. Next question for you guys, most important question, how do you get a job as a Lego Master Model Builder?
Luck and timing. Draw a lot, build a lot. Those are just two jokes. It's for us, it's all been a very unique path per individual within the team, meaning that I think we all have gotten our way here very differently. I started out much like a carpenter would as a model builder gluey, that's not a thing, gluer, where I would glue together sets that would then be on display in a store that you could go and see the sets and hopefully get inspired to purchase them, to experience them yourself. Fast forward about 22 years, in that time frame, I've probably had about 6 different jobs within there. And now as a designer, we use a lot of digital technology. So the story is a little different if you're trying to come in now. It's, I say to parents all the time, you got to have the square basics of, math, all the things that make you successful in school. And then on top of that, you got to have strong visual skills, meaning you have to be able to see in 3D particularly, which is not a drawing. It's if you were to make something with your hands that you could see all the way around. And computer technology is really taken hold in how we design. So real quickly, we use all the same tools and technology that animation companies use to make the movies that we all love. So that's a good way to get in there as well. So for the parents, art is key in all the basics. Mathematics are play in how we design models every day of the week. Lego is a really fun way to actually learn how to do math and learn ratios and understand different advanced level techniques without even knowing it, because the way the brick goes together is a system. It's called the Lego system for a reason. Everything is meant to interact. And in that design process, everything is a ratio or somewhat similar to itself as you turn things and you do different stuff. So I got a little wordy there, Sam, I'm sorry. But in other words, study hard. And that goes beyond just at school. That's in visual skills, art, sculpture, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, I'm just going to once again encourage you guys as you're building and when you're done building, make sure you #Lego, #MakeItWithMichaels. So I just want to actually bring it back to one, and then Sam, you can give me more questions in a minute, but I'm going to bring you back to something that maybe you may be struggling with right now in your building. And it's a very simple technique or building style that I want to talk about, and it's called interlocking. Now, my son actually made up this example of it right here. I'm going to stick it right in front of my face so you can see it. But you can see it's it's overlapping seams. You see the orange, yellow brick here is overlapping the orange. The blue bricks are overlapping the yellow and the orange. Now, what this causes is what this creates, I'm sorry, is it creates a nice, strong, stable model. Now, think about that when you're building your rocket ships or something like that, like this guy right here. You want to try to interlock it the best you can while still creating a nice design with your model. Pete talked about it earlier when we were building the first rocket that we built there. And you need to use interlocking to make a nice, strong, stable model. So think about that as you're building your creations. If you're having difficulties and your model's falling apart, always come back to interlocking and you're going to eliminate that problem.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Just a couple of questions from the chat. First off, for everybody who might be joining us or just has the question, the rocket model that we built at the beginning of the session, we will share the instructions and the parts list for that. So if you missed anything or you'd like to build it again, we're going to share that with you to take away after the session. But right now we're just free building any kind of rocket that you'd like using any colors and bricks you'd like. But the instructions for that first rocket we will share. And then Chris, new question for you. Everybody would like to know, well, for both of you, what's the best model, the coolest model, your favorite model that you've ever worked on?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. So it's like trying to pick your favorite kid, right, Pete? I mean, we all know we have a favorite kid. No, that's not true. We don't. But so if I had to pick a model that I really enjoyed working on, and I think Pete was actually a part of this one as well. I know Pete was a part of this one, is we worked on a massive 16-foot wide by 19-foot long model of the city of Rio for the 2016 Olympics that were held down there. And that model was truly impressive. It was just massive. It had all the different Olympic venues that were at the Olympics, and then the stadiums and stuff like that. And then it had all the different landmarks throughout the city, Mount Sugarloaf, Christ Redeemer on top of the mountain. And it was just a really fun model to build because there were so many different little scenes that you could create within that model, something that we don't get to do very often either, because normally we're building just large-scale sculptures. But in this case, we're building a large-scale sculpture that we're able to add on minifigures and create little scenes and just have little things happening throughout the entire model. And that's really where the fun came in. And that actually all happened down in Rio during the Olympics. So we spent about 3 weeks down there setting up the entire model. So, and it was actually fun for me because my father at the time, who is also a Lego Master Model Builder, since retired. So we spent 3 weeks down there together working, building a large-scale sculpture. So not only was it a great project, but I got to spend some really quality time with my father in a really cool country.
Yeah, that was a great model. I guess quickly I would say, Chris is right. It's really a challenge to pick your favorite one. I think the astronaut that I shared earlier is more recently a favorite one. I think included in that, and you can find it if your parents will let you help you rather search it on Google. I got to design Thanos when Infinity War came out, Comic-Con from.
Oh, that was an awesome one.
Which was a really cool one. We don't use a lot of lights in our models anymore, and we got to do it in that one, so that was really cool. I think going way back, I got to be involved in the building of the Hobbit house, which I was the lead designer on. It was one of my first major projects. So I think personally that was a huge success, and I think it was a very fulfilling time in my life. I also had my first child around that time, so it all dovetailed really well. But that model was awesome, and again, it's on YouTube. There's a whole 7-minute documentary of the making of. But those are probably the 3 standouts that I would say. I don't have a favorite like parts. I think it tends to be so many things every day.
Thanks, Pete and Chris. So guys, we're just about at time. So everyone who's building, if you finish up your builds, we're going to share them with Chris and Pete in just a minute. So make sure you're finishing your model and getting ready to share it on the camera. But just one last question while everyone wraps up for Chris. Quickly, how many Lego bricks do you have at your house? Be honest.
Quickly, well, this is just one tub of it right here. And because we've been building so much here, out of of my house, really. We had an air hockey table that we've taken and plugged up all the holes on it and dumped bins of brick into it to make it a little bit easier, so the bricks aren't spilling all over the floor, and then I can just have a whole bunch out there and go ahead and grab them and build away. Typically, we would be in our shop where we'd be building out of pre-sorted brick, and I wouldn't have to dig through and find all the different elements I'm looking for. So it's a little bit more difficult working from home, but it's been a lot of fun. So for me, the best part is actually that as I'm building, the kids tend to come down and build together at the same time. And it's fun at the same point. They sometimes forget the fact that I actually have to do some work rather than just find them bricks. So yes, I have a lot of Lego bricks hanging around.
As a coworker of Chris, we really appreciate his son Chase giving him pointers and feedback on all of his models.
He does. He's very critical about it.
So I would say I don't have a lot of Lego brick in my house, but I have been making models like this for my kids since they were little. So this is Stitch. My oldest is a huge fan. I've also made a model of her as a cat, which you can see behind me over here. So I don't have a lot of loose brick in my house. We do have sets. Both of my daughters love it. Liam also likes playing with Lego as well. But we don't tend to keep a lot of it around in buckets and stuff because the kids actually build their models. They'll build sculptures and then put them up on the shelf. So there's not a lot of loose bricks. It's more of intentionally designed models and what have you.
Cool. So Sam, unless we have a different question here, I think I think it's time, Pete. What do you say? Should we ask to see all these cool models or what?
Are you going to show what you did?
Do I have to show mine first? Come on. So this is the start of what I have going on here. It's kind of this cool little spaceship, very futuristic. It's got a little jet engine nozzle on the back there, or however it finds its way, some warp drive or something to find its way around in space. And it's kind of up top here. It has the where the crew is, and they steer the spaceship right there. And yeah, so that's what I built here. Kind of a micro version is what I was going for.
That's pretty cool, man. Good job. So I'll share my screen. I've been working on trying to augment the model, or change the model that we were working on before. And as you can see here, I've added some huge jet engines. I started to pull out a little bit more of a tail. I was going to try to put a habitat in there, but I talked too much and lost track of time. But I've updated the cockpit, huge engines, nothing crazy, just little simple things. But that's where
I like it.
So without further ado, if you guys want to show it, we'll pull up the gallery view and we'll check out what you guys worked on. But again, you can share those at #MakeItWithMichaels, #Lego, and me and all the other master builders, as well as all the fans of Lego, and everyone in the world will be able to see your creations. So we really heavily encourage you guys to do that. Collaboration breeds better work. Without further ado, let's check out those models.
Absolutely. Let's see them. Can't wait.
Oh, I see some cool stuff. First off, you have the name Shadow, which is pretty cool. And I like this. Put that back up to the camera. I even took it away. That's really cool. I like the articulated spine you got there, the tail. That's awesome. Oh, and I see a cool, that looks like the rocket we made out of Duplo. Is that a Duplo rocket? Oh, that's awesome.
Let me see. Yeah, I see some sweet looking models up here, Pete. I don't know. I feel like they're gonna put us to shame here.
Gage, is that your Lego setup behind you? Are those all sorted Lego bins? That is a killer Lego setup. I'm a little jealous. Good stuff. What did you build?
Hold
it up, Gage. What'd you make? No, he's lost interest. He doesn't want to show us. I'm seeing the same trend again, Chris. A lot of parents in there building too. I love that.
Of course, that's the best part about it. when you have the parents building, that just makes the fun that much more intense. Absolutely. It's the best way to build, right? It's something that you should be doing with your kids. It's about building that creativity. Because let's face it, Pete, as adults, we're not always the most creative. So when you have kids kind of lead it in the way, they're gonna help. They're gonna help you be more creative as well.
I'm looking at Bryce Chow. He made an entire rocket. That looks pretty. You made that just now? That's pretty legit. That might actually be the set, but that's a hard one to build. So good work, Bryce. That's really awesome. I see Liam and I see Cora. I see some people from my world on there. Hi, guys.
Oh yeah. I'm liking what I'm seeing though, Pete. There's a really a ton of creativity happening. Ton of creativity.
Duplo stuff. There's a lot of Duplo models out here. It's really cool. Chris, I'm going to ask you a real quick question. Is that a model of me on the shelf behind you in my blue polo?
Oh, that may just be a model of you back there. So if you guys haven't read Marsupial Madness, it's coming to stores or your bookstore near you. But no, it really isn't. No, so we actually do have a model of Pete right over here. He's he's having kind of a rough day here, actually. He's got a crazy robot koala hanging on his back. It's so we actually did this for our show, Masters on Masters, which was airing during Lego Masters. And yeah, so it actually never made the show because we had this crazy thing called coronavirus that kind of got in the way. So I took it back here and used it as decorations. I'm probably not going to be able to get him to stand back up there.
Well, thanks, guys. We're almost out of time. So thank you for everyone sharing their awesome models. And make sure, again, to share on social with hashtag #MakeItWithMichaels and hashtag Lego for us to check it out. And you can watch the session back starting tomorrow on michaels.com/classes, where you can also sign up for more great classes from Michaels. But now, guys, with the time we have left, do we want to talk brick paper before we say goodbye?
Pete, that's all you, man. You want to show a little brick paper here?
Sure. So I'm going to share my screen again, but first let me bring it up. So brick paper is one of the tools that we as master model builders, it actually was one of the original tools when I started back in 1997. This is how most models were designed. And brick paper is essentially, it's just a piece of graph paper that you can, it has the same shape and size of Lego bricks. So let me share my screen now that I got it open. Here it is. So this is brick paper, and the way brick paper works is it's just like graph paper. If you've ever used graph paper to do a scale-up drawing in an art class, or if you've ever used graph paper to draw, you know, a layout of a map or anything like that, graph paper is basically a sheet of paper that has squares on it that are all the same size. This graph paper is different than normal graph paper because you can see that we have red lines, gray lines, and then little rectangles that when you add them together become larger rectangles. So if you take these three squares, 1, 2, 3, put them on top of each other, that makes a Lego brick, but each one of these individually makes a plate. And the way we use brick paper, which I should actually mention that you guys, I believe, have, the brick paper is downloadable in the comments. So if you go all the way to the top, I think it's one of the first posts. So if you haven't gotten it in the email, you can get it that way. But brick paper, again, is a tool that we use to design. So this is an example. If you start with the letter B, you put the brick paper over it, or you sketch out freehand, which means you just draw the letter B on there. And then you use the grid to create an outline of that, which is in the same shape and dimension as Lego bricks. So you can see this blue line here, which is a pencil line. That line makes the same shape. So when you look at this, you actually get the letter B. And then this is not something we use just to do letters or to do shapes. We use this to do almost everything, including the most complicated model that we design, which is a human likeness. So if we're gonna do a model of anyone that's in this class, or say Chris, typically almost all the designers in our team will use brick paper to help get rough proportions of eye placement, which is the distance between two eyes, where the nose is relative to the eyes, meaning where does the nose sit if you were to take a measurement from the eye to the nose. We'll use the brick paper in photography, or we'll do sketches of the faces and then we'll use those. But typically when you're creating a likeness, you want to go off photography because you want to make it as accurate as possible. So this is a really basic example, but if you wanted to do something like, I'm trying to find my pen. If you wanted to just free design something, you could do that by coming in. Man, I did not have my Photoshop even close to set up. You could come in and just start trying to make a shape, and you can see that all I'm really doing here is I'm drawing on the grid paper. So if I wanted to make, let's say I wanted to make, I don't know, some sort of a wrench or something. I could come in here and I could draw this, and then I could take this and I go into my brick pile and I'll pull out the pieces I need so that I can recreate. Again, each one of these little lines, that's a plate. You add 3 of them together and that's a brick. And then this is the brick going sideways. So this would be a 1x4 brick or a 2x4 brick because it's not accounting for the depth. I know that's kind of wordy and it's kind of weird, but I believe the download has a little bit more of an explanation. It shows how to make a duck with brick paper. So I encourage you guys to download it, read through that with your parents, and then just draw pictures. I could see, you know, someone like Cora, my daughter would draw a flower or a bumblebee on this paper, and then she would go and find the bricks and try to squeeze them together to make that shape. So this is a really good way to just start off, to get going, making just about anything. It's just a matter of getting in there and doing it, just like anything else. Anything you want to add?
I think Pete, you nailed it. It's a good way to start your creativity. It's not necessarily the only way to do it, but it's going to give you a good starting point. Because let's face it, a lot of kids are really good with colored pencils and crayons. They can really just go ahead and start drawing stuff out, and then use that basis to actually finish off their model.
Yeah, and it's like Chris said, it's not the only way to do it. We do a lot of things digitally. It's just a way to start. I know a lot of kids that will just dump a bunch of brick out in front of them and they'll build something up. We have a lot of family friends with young kids and they'll make stuff, and then I'll get a text from their mom, well, look what they did, or their dad, and I'll check it out. And those guys are usually just starting by free building, which is another way to do it, you know?
Absolutely. There is no wrong way to build a Lego. I think that's the main thing that we want to say here is you can build with Lego whichever way works best for you. Having brick paper is just another outlet for you to actually be creative and start your creations.
Yeah.
So, Pete, I think you want to talk a little bit about Bricklink Studio?
Sure. So I believe I still have it open. So this is a Bricklink Studio is kind of a newer version of a piece of software that was called Lego Digital Designer. So this was developed by Bricklink, the site, and it basically allows you to digitally illustrate or digitally build anything you want. So just a quick fly around what's the interface, which is basically the software that you see on the screen. So interface is just the fancy word for it. I'm not sharing my screen. I almost pulled a Chris, but I caught myself. So in Bricklink Studio, you can see the interface. So you have all of your bricks over here, and those are filtered or put into little containers based on the shapes themselves. And you can change that a lot. But if you wanted to see like all the different Lego elements that are animal based, you can come click in here and then you can get all the cool stuff. And you can see it's as simple as a click to bring things in and put them down. This collection here houses everything just about historically Lego has ever released as a part, meaning that any part that Lego has ever made or put into a set, you can get digitally and you can build within here. It allows you to build, color, design, do anything you want to do. All the way through, you can do a render, which is like a computer making a photograph of your model. So if you wanted to make a model and use it as a card to send to, say, a friend or family or grandma or grandpa, you can do that in here, print it out, write a little message and send it off. So this is a really versatile piece of software, which again is just a nice way of saying you can do a lot with this. But the funnest aspect of it, and I'm sure Chris would agree with me, is you can literally make anything out of Lego brick. And then it gives you a great jump off point to pull your bucket of bricks out and recreate what you've done digitally, or just do a really cool digital thing because you want to share with your friends some cool building technique. most important thing is this is a free piece of software. So this is a way to really get an understanding of the full collection of Lego elements, and it's free and it does a lot of really fun stuff. I definitely suggest that you talk to your parents and you consider downloading it if you are a huge Lego fan, which I know most of you probably are. This is a great way to start.
Hey, Pete, can I chime in there? I think one of the best features that you didn't talk about that you can do in here is you can actually take and put in a set number that you may have at home already, and then build with just the elements from that set. So you could take and make alternate models for the sets you have at home, and then go ahead and actually build it. So you could have, let's say, that cool Star Wars ship already built and on display, and then make another version of it without having to destroy the Star Wars ship that you already have made. So you can make a virtual version. And then if you end up liking that one better, you can go ahead and destroy that model and go ahead and make it. So Pete's showing you right there. He just imported in a model.
Yeah, so this is actually, when I built the rocket, that's how I did it. That's a really good point, Chris. So this was to make sure that we would be using parts that are currently available, so you guys have a really good chance, as well as just choosing bricks that we knew have been around for a while and are pretty evergreen, but you have a chance to have it. So that's a really good consideration, Chris. I didn't even think of that. Calling that.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Sam. So we're just about out of time. So just for everyone in the class, make sure to check out the links in the chat. You can visit michaels.com/kidsclub online to sign up for more classes, michaels.com/classes to watch this session tomorrow. And we're going to send every participant an email with building instructions for the rocket and the brick paper that we just showed you. Also in the chat, you can see a link to Brick League Studios, which is the software that Pete was just showing us. So make sure to check out that chat, and then also check out your email after the session for more information.
And I did also include the link to the building instructions in the chat already. So if anybody wanted to get a jump on that email, you can currently download them from the chat.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, Pete, what do you say? I think we should thank everyone, first of all, for coming. I've had a great time. I hope everyone has had a great time as well. Once again, remember, #Lego, #Make It With Michaels. Put your creations out there in the world and let other people see them. Inspire the next generation of builders out there, because you guys are building now, and there's other kids that are going to be coming up behind you who are going to need someone else to look up to. So absolutely share your cool creations out there, inspire some other people, some other kids as well. And once again, Brick League Studios and Brick Paper, 2 examples of Lego programs or Lego items that will help improve your building and take you to the next level. So thank you guys for all coming, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Yeah, I second what Chris said. Thank you all for the great questions, and thank you for your time, most importantly. It's a very important commodity. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. I love doing this, and hopefully you got a little inspiration and you're ready to go build.
Thanks, everyone.